Greetings, viewers. What we have here is a nondescript eMachines tower. These are pretty ubiquitous early to mid-2000s machines. It's got an Intel Pentium sticker on it. That's almost certainly not original. The information sticker is long gone, but if we lift this up here, which will reveal the audio ports, this does not have front panel USB, which I actually just noticed now. It's kind of interesting, but it's got a headphone and a microphone jack at least. You can see this is an eMachines model T6534. And if we take a look at the computer back here, you can get something of an idea as to what was in it. 2.2 GHz Athlon 64, 512 meg of RAM, 200 GB hard drive, GeForce 6100. Of course, it had a modem, 10100 Ethernet. You know, standard stuff for early to mid 2000s. That being said, if we take a look at this, you can see on the front that it looks pretty nondescript for an eMachines computer. The one thing I never really liked about their machines is that they have this proprietary faceplate on the optical drive, so you can't just replace it with any optical drive, which really kind of sucked. Not that it matters, because this is a DVD burner, so this was pretty much the best thing that you could get anyway. But if you wanted to put a SATA drive in here, you were almost completely screwed. Digital Media Manager, which is basically a fancy way of saying, well, it's got a card reader, which, yes, does have a USB port, so it doesn't really need the front panel USB. I'm going to go ahead and flip this around and we'll take a look at the back. Alright, coming ahead around back, you can see a power supply here. You can see a motherboard with an I/O shield, certainly nondescript. There's one expansion card which does not have a VGA, which is fine, there's nothing wrong with that. It's obviously not original. But it's not the only thing that's not original in this machine. I have the side panel off, but I haven't showed you inside the system yet. The only thing original about the inside of the machine is the optical drive. Everything else has been changed. What I'd imagine happened to this, which is what happened to pretty much all of these things, is it originally had a Bestech power supply in it. 250 watts, more than likely, ATX 250-12E or ATX 250-12Z. Those things are known defective, and what happens with them is the caps go bad, and when the caps go bad, the voltage regulator circuit doesn't shut off, it just stops regulating properly. And neither does any of the other protection circuitry. Cut it out. So what ends up happening is you get like 14 or 15 volts that goes out over the 5-volt rail, typically the 5-volt standby rail, when you plug it in, and it'll shoot flames out the back like a fire-breathing dragon, and it will also take out your chipset, your motherboard, you know, USB keyboard and mouse, PS2 keyboard and mouse. Anything that was connected to the 5-volt standby line will blow up in spectacular fashion. And of course you'll be left with a dead computer and dead peripherals, and you'll wonder what the heck just happened. So, that's probably why this power supply is in here. I actually got this computer from a viewer for a price that normally I wouldn't pay for something like this, but I did kind of want the case, and the case is certainly worth what I paid for it. I actually sold them this power supply, so it was almost, well, not even really close, but I'd imagine that some of that cost was used to offset the cost of this. The motherboard that's in here has got me puzzled. I have no idea what this actually is. I want to say it's a BioStar board. It looks an awful lot like something BioStar would make, and if you take a look at some of the printing on it, you can see it looks an awful lot, and the statements are an awful lot like what was on that B450MH board that I bought. So, I'd love to know how you're going to overclock DDR2 on a cheap board like this. I don't think that's going to actually happen. Well, I'm going to actually take back what I said about this being a BioStar board, because you can see right there, P5KPL-AM EPU green. This is an Asus board. So, I'd imagine that actually the Asus logo is probably hiding underneath this. And the unfortunate thing about these cheaper boards, I'm not even really sure you could put a bigger board in this case, having a look at it. Oh, maybe you can. I thought that these standoffs were in an odd position, but they're not. It is a standard micro ATX positioning. You can see that this should have a 24-pin power connector, but it's running with a 20-pin. You can do that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's not too much special about this otherwise. It looks like it's only got one IDE channel, which is probably fine. I'd imagine that this is one of those earlier boards that used IDE channels for SATA ports. There's 3 IDE channels, so you get 4 SATA ports and 1 actual IDE channel. But we could power it up and find out. That's probably what we're going to do. This video card is not really anything special. It's just a GeForce 210. So, probably not very good, but if it works, it works. Who's going to complain about that? I'm not sure about anything else with respect to this. This motherboard's not staying in here. I am going to remove it and put in a different board. This is probably going to actually play host to the Everex motherboard that I have, assuming I can get that thing to work and stay working. People love to rail on eMachines computers as being cheap, and quite frankly they were. They did use cheap components for some of it, like, for example, the power supplies, which is not this, even though I'm pointing at this. But this case is actually fairly good quality metal, you know. It's not like cheap tinfoil or anything like that. So, it's kind of unfortunate that they got a reputation for having crappy power supplies, which they did. But, other than that, they were basically fine. You know. So, what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and hook it up. We'll power it up, see what it can do, if it does anything, and then we'll see where we go from there. I'll probably swap the board in another video. I don't want to drag this video on for like 30 minutes. People have been getting on my case about long videos lately, so we'll try and curb some of that as much as we can. Okay, plugged in power. Flick it on, see what it does. We're now using 6 watts from the wall. So that's about 4 watts on standby. Power it up. Does it still work? Oh, here we go. Asus P5KPL-AM EPU ACPI BIOS. Core 2 Quad. Ooh, that's nice. Q6600. Now, I know that a lot of people scoff at that CPU, and they have their reasons for doing so. It's not exactly the world's best CPU. It's high TDP. I'm not sure why it's only seeing 3 gigs of RAM. Do we only have 3 gigs of RAM? I didn't actually check that. It's a 1 gigabyte stick. So yeah, that would be a 2 gigabyte stick. Yeah, so it's got 3 gigs of RAM. That's okay, there's nothing wrong with that. So, I don't think there's anything really interesting to look at in the BIOS. There's no hard drive, I didn't get that, which is fine. Again, you know, in the case of a lot of computers lately, I've wished I didn't get the hard drive, because they've got junk on them that I really just, I could have lived my entire life without knowing the previous owner was into that kind of thing, you know? I think some of you have worked with computers for long enough and have picked up some of these things with racy paraphernalia on them, probably know exactly what I'm talking about. But, seems to work, even though it's sat in my car and rode around with me to work and back for the last probably close to a month now. Let's network boot it, see if we can boot an operating system. I went ahead and grabbed the side panel for 2 reasons. Number 1, you can see it was made by Honhai Precision in 2006, so now we have a approximate age of the machine. But the second reason is to show the whole world that I am a huge dork, because I didn't even notice that the spec sticker is right there on the inside of the case. I mean, obviously that's not where it was originally, but it's here now, so we can see exactly what this thing had. 3700 plus actually wouldn't have been too bad. For those of you that don't know what 3700 plus means, that's a comparison to an equivalent Intel Pentium 4 chip. AMD was doing that for a while in the mid to late 2000s. You know, saying that, oh, this chip, which is actually a 2.2 gigahertz chip, performs equivalent to a 3.7 gigahertz Pentium 4. Most of the time, they weren't actually too far off. Back then, AMD was absolutely wiping the floor with whatever Intel had, and these days it's basically much of the same thing. Although that's obviously debatable. Intel's got their niche markets, but on paper, at least if you factor out Alder Lake, that AMD has not responded to yet, AMD is just so much better on paper than Intel in so many different ways. GeForce GPU is obviously on board. 9-in-1 memory card reader, which is odd, but that's okay. 200 gig hard drive. That was one of those other odd things that they did, where these intermediate sized drives, you know, instead of going from 160 to 250 to 320 to 500, they had all these weird sizes. 640 was another odd size that they had for a while. 512 meg of RAM, DVD plus minus RW, dual layer, pretty nice. 5 USB ports, and all that. You know, pretty standard stuff. That was shipped with Windows XP Home Edition. I'm actually running Linux Mint on this right now. I've booted this up off the network. So we can just go ahead and take a look. Not doing too much. Not being hammered. And the system is using about 70 watts from the wall. But let's make it do something and see what happens. You wouldn't even be, well, now you can, but it's now playing a YouTube video. Chugging along. It's not doing a whole lot of work. I'm only playing it at 480p right now. Power usage has gone up about 10 watts. It's fluctuating quite a bit as more things happen on the screen. Let's push this thing up to 4K, or not 4K. Why did I say 4K? I believe this is 1080p. You could try a 4K video and see what it does. I'm not sure it'll actually play it. Get a video, part of the video with some motion. Oh yeah. Now it's using up quite a bit more of a CPU. And still only maybe pulling about 100 watts from the wall, fluctuating again quite a bit, depending upon what's actually going on the screen. Because I am curious and I want to torture the crap out of this thing, I am going to find a 4K video and see if it can play it. Okay, I found this sample video and it was struggling to play it for a minute at 1080p, so this is probably not a nice thing to do to it. But, guess what? I don't care. We're not here to do nice things. Let's see if it'll actually play 4K 60 FPS. I don't think so. It's not looking very promising so far. Yeah, that's a slideshow. In fact, it's not even a slideshow. It's not even playing anything. It was trying for a second, and then it just kind of faulted out. Yeah, I don't think that's really possible. I think that's a bit much for it. And now we're using quite a bit more power from the wall, about 120 watts. Again, fluctuating a little bit. I think the TDP of the chip that's in here is 105 watts. So, that should give you something of an idea. Okay, we'll pause that and stop it from doing things. Bring our monitor back up. And I'm actually going to close Firefox entirely, just so it's not doing anything in the background. You can see our CPU usage goes back down normal. So does our RAM usage. Look at that nice little spike in RAM usage there. And we're back down to about 70 watts. So, still a pretty decent computer. I mean, you could see there it could play 1080p video, basically no problem. And I'm pretty sure that that's with basically no GPU acceleration, because I don't think a GeForce 210 is going to be very useful for any kind of GPU acceleration. So, I guess all in all, it's a nice case, it's a nice little system. I've got an extra motherboard with a Core 2 Quad CPU on it, but that's not what's going to stay in here. It'll be a nice basis for that EverX machine. I think it's a nice period-correct case with some good looks and good build quality to go along with it. And that's pretty much it for the video, so thank you for watching, and if you've got any comments, feel free to leave them down below.